What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to this week's episode of the Standing Room Only podcast, starring myself, Goose. As always, I'm here with Healy. Want to thank you guys for tuning in. Remember, hit that download button if you guys have not already. If you are not aware, that is how we get our analytics. It helps us a lot. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're on YouTube as well. Make sure you're following our social media accounts. We are on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We are SR Only Pod. Make sure you are following our main accounts. Our personal accounts, I should say. I'm iGoose with 4 O's. I am on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram. We have Healy as well.
Yeah, I am on Twitter and Instagram at the Healy6. Exciting episode this week.
Oh, yeah, we got a lot. We got baseball. We're going to do our predictions. It's right around the corner. We have a little bit of NFL action leading up to the NFL draft. We have some moves being made. We got some basketball action, of course. Always some basketball news these days. But we're going to get started with baseball. I'm excited. You're excited, Healy. I know you are. We have day one, opening day tomorrow. Considering when this episode's going to drop tomorrow. We're recording the day before.
Yeah, we got opening day on Thursday. And we are ready to go. We probably could have done this last week, but last week was the trade deadline in the NBA. So back-to-back, pretty big episodes.
Yep.
And we're going to give our yearly predictions. Is this the only sport we've done? This is going to be our second time doing it with?
With baseball, yeah. This is the second time because we had it leading into the, I don't want to call it the bubble season, but the COVID season, the shortened 60-game season.
Yeah. I'm talking about football and basketball, too. I think we started the podcast a little bit into the season.
No, we did. Yeah, we started, I want to say, in October, which would have been already football season, and basketball season was just getting started. We've given predictions, like mid-season predictions before, but with baseball, we have not. Baseball's the only one, or the first one, where we were able to give preseason predictions. So this is volume 2 with baseball. This time it is going to be with a full 162-game season. Some rules carried over, some did not, aka DH, I believe, is not available with the NL anymore. Bummer. We were all looking forward to that. But nonetheless, full season is going to be fun. We're going to have fans in the stadium. Not a full 100%, but we'll take what we can get. We will take what we can get. But yeah, I'm excited. Healy, I know you're excited. I'm sure we're going to have some of the same predictions just like we had last year. I'm trying to throw some curveballs, no pun intended, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, we definitely have to see a game in April. No doubt about it. It's been too long since I've attended a baseball stadium. So we're definitely going to a game next month.
You want to get started with the divisional predictions? We're going to have division. We'll do World Series. We'll do AL, NL, MVP, Cy Young winners. I think we'll leave like Rookie of the Years out for now. I think we'll wait and see. And then we'll leave out maybe Coach of the Year, stuff like that. We'll leave towards maybe mid-season. We'll talk mid-season.
Yeah, there's Manager of the Year. Like, that's not really something you could predict. It's just most of the time it's who overcomes the odds. Rookie of the Year, I could probably come up with like a couple. Like NL Rookie of the Year, definitely going to be like Ke'Bryan Hayes. All he has to do is perform, and he'll do well. The AL, there's a ton of different options. Like Andrew Vaughn is now in that mix as well in the American League. But yeah, division winners. We will do the World Series matchup. We could do the CS matchup, but we'll just straight up do World Series. Not have to go into too much depth there, and then awards. So we will start off with the American League. We're going to go. Also, we forgot about the wild card teams. There's 2 wild card teams.
Yes.
No expanded playoffs. So
yep.
American League. I'm going to start off with the AL East. And last year, I predicted it correctly. I got the wild card team and the division winner. This year, I don't think is as much of a competition. I know the Tampa Bay kind of took like a little step back, getting rid of Snell. They did get Patino in their rotation now. They still have a lot of their same roster they had last year, but they were built for that 60-game season last year. Very solid team. No discredit to them, but in a full 162, I am going to go with the powerhouse New York Yankees. They just have the best overall squad. They have a great bullpen. Their rotation, a little iffy. They do get Severino back at some point. Domingo Germán's pitching this year. They could pull up Clark Schmidt if needed. And Garrett Cole should be lights out. So the only downfall would be injuries, which this team is kind of injury prone. Luke Voit is going to be out for a little bit. Aaron Judge has missed a few games past couple seasons. Giancarlo Stanton's been the same. You'll see Clint Frazier on the roster, I believe, this year. I'm going with the Yankees. And the AL Central, I thought it was going to be a little bit closer when I was like looking at it between the Twins and White Sox again. But even with Eloy Jimenez out, I think the White Sox are the for sure team in the American League Central. We've seen Cleveland Indians take steps back by trading away Lindor. They just haven't really picked up their pitching. They traded away Carlos Carrasco. Still have Shane Bieber. They still have an okay bullpen, but their team is just not complete. And then the Twins, they have a heck of a lineup still. I just think the rotation is going to hold them back. They do have Kenta Maeda, who was great last year. Their bullpen, a little bit iffy. They did lose a key piece in Trevor May. Some of the guys need to step up. I know 2020 shouldn't really take into account, which you will see with one of my predictions coming up, but there were a couple guys that took a little bit of a step back, and Nelson Cruz is aging a little more. We'll have to see if he can still keep producing. I just think the White Sox are more of a complete team. And then in the West, I am going to go with the Astros. I feel like Houston, they got a good deal with Jake Odorizzi in their rotation. They're still a very solid team. They have a lot of guys in their contract year. They retained Michael Brantley, which was huge. They still have Kyle Tucker. They have Altuve, Correa, Yordan Alvarez, Bregman. Their rotation's pretty solid. Bullpen's pretty solid. And with Oakland, I feel like they did lose a key piece in Marcus Semien. They lost Liam Hendricks. I feel like they are not going to finish at the top. So Yankees, White Sox, Astros. My two wild card teams. I'm still in a little bit of a pickle here. I'm going to go with Tampa Bay.
Okay.
And I'm going to go with Oakland, though. I did kind of talk poorly about both those teams, but they are still very solid teams. They are going to do well enough to make the wild card, I feel like. And looking at the other teams, I just don't see another team sneaking in. Potentially, the Blue Jays could sneak in. They did lose Kirby Yates. I just feel like they are a year off. If they have a type of year like the White Sox did last year, so be it. Good for them. Right now, the team that's ready, though, is the Rays and the A's. Toronto, though, be on the lookout for them to either barely miss or to sneak into that spot.
Yeah, so I I had a feeling this was gonna happen. We have very similar picks, except for a couple of different wildcard teams. So in the East, I'm going with the New York Yankees, just like you mentioned last year. Overall, if it was a 162 game season, we would have seen the Yankees last a little bit longer. Of course, this is bearing their injury status. Obviously, a lot of guys get hurt on that team. You already said the big names, the big time players, the guys who get paid the big bucks. Giancarlo, Aaron Judge. Even then, if these guys go down, they still have other bats, Luke Voit, so on and so forth. I'm sticking with the Yankees. I don't even know if it's going to be close in the division run. Perhaps Tampa will win, a solid number of games, though they might push them through August before the Yankees take off. In the Central, this is the year I am going with the White Sox for sure, taking the division. Last year, I was confident that they would be better. And I know I did take them for the division last year, but for sure, confidently, with the addition of Kopech is coming back. They got Liam Hendricks, their Lucas Giolito starting day one. Their bats are there. Yes, Eloy's
Lance Lynn.
hurt. Yeah, and Lance Lynn. Let's not forget about Lance Lynn, who is aging like fine wine at this point. And their bats are great. Moncada's having a good spring. The whole team, Tim Anderson, didn't lose anything. And obviously Vaughn, which they decided to not send back down, and with Eloy going down, Eloy's going to be gone for a while. He's going to hurt. I don't want to say it's going to hurt the roster very much, because we still have, Jose Abreu, so on and so forth. Like 1 through 9, the roster's dangerous. The lineup, I should say. That being said, I'm confident that the White Sox are going to blow the division away. They're going to win it by at least 8-9 games. That's where I'm going with. And then, of course, with the West, I was kind of torn, only because I feel at some point Mike Trout's going to have a winning team, and I just don't know. And Ohtani is throwing over 100 in spring training week 1. And apparently he's hitting 460-foot bombs as well. So in a way, it's almost like I want to root for them and think that they have what it takes, but I am going to go with Houston. If I had to gamble on it, I'm going to go with Houston, simply because they are still star-studded all around, pitching, hitting. With that being said, the 2 wildcard teams, I am going with Minnesota. I still believe Minnesota is a great team. They are a great team. They're great last year, the year before. They were tough. Pitching's good. As you mentioned, Maeda, they have their hitters. I mean, all around, they are good. I feel like they're going to pull off at least 92 games, 91, 92 games, right around there. And you did say Toronto is not a right now team, and I agree. I don't know if they're going to go far in the playoffs, but that is going to be my wild card number 2. I feel like they're going to play well enough to bump Tampa out of the East and maybe take it by a game. It's going to be close, but I'm going with Toronto for wild card number 2.
Okay. Going back on the Angels comment, it's a big problem every year. They did sign Darren O'Day. They also just did sign another relief pitcher. It might have been Tony Watson, but they don't have pitching. They just don't have the pitching depth in the rotation, and they don't have the pitching depth in their bullpen. And that's 2 huge components. You see very good teams make the playoffs and get to the World Series because of their pitching. Until they do that and they fill a couple of their spots on that Angels team, might be a little longer for Trout to make the playoffs. Hopefully over the next couple of years, but that farm system isn't looking too great. Just on an unfortunate spot.
Yep.
Moving over.
Do you want to do the NL or do you want to do AL awards before we go to the NL?
We'll do awards all at once.
Okay, I'm cool with that. So let's do the NL. Let's see what you got.
The NL, I feel like, could be a toss-up for like every single division. Yep. And I feel like we could come up with different answers here. So NL East, man, this is a very tough division. And I don't know if I want to ride the hype or not, but I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to go with the New York Mets winning the East.
Okay.
They added Lindor. Carrasco's there. I know he is a little hurt at the moment. I feel like that Mets team is going to click. A couple of guys have gotten a little bit older. Pete Alonso, Dominic Smith. They've meshed for a year longer. And due to Atlanta's lack of starting pitching, they do have some solid starters. They had Soroka. They had Ian Anderson last year. I feel like they will edge out just a tad. This division is going to be close. You could also count in Washington and Philadelphia if you wanted to, but I'm going to go with the Mets. In the Central, this is going to be a close division, 1 through 4. No team is particularly too great, and I'm hoping I'm just going to speak this into existence. and I'm a little biased. Last year I did not do this. This year I am. The Chicago Cubs are going to win the Central. They're starting pitching not too great. I got to admit. Their bullpen just okay. But all the other teams in the division, the Milwaukee Brewers, very great team in a sense of pitching wise. Their lineup though, not so great. I'm hoping the Cubs, especially with Rizzo getting lowballed on his deal, Bryant's in a contract year, Baez is in a contract year. These guys have been fed up for their lack of performance the last couple of years, and they finally put it together and click. They have one of the best hitting lineups in baseball. Pitching's huge, but that lineup in general, just great. They just need to play well. Solid talent, they just never play well at the same time. This is probably their final hurrah. And then in the West, I'm going to go with the Dodgers. They're just so good. Padres are great, got to admit. But man, the Dodgers, they lost like Kike Hernandez over the past couple years. And they've picked up guys like Mookie Betts they traded for last year. They've gotten Trevor Bauer. They've made just solid signings. And they've added a lot of starters like Dustin May, Tony Gonsolin. It's just that team just keeps getting better and better, and they're young too. Like it's unbelievable. Wild card teams. One of them has to be the Padres. They're too good not to make the playoffs. So Padres are going to be one of the teams. The other team, I'm going to say the Washington Nationals sneak in.
Oh.
Strasburg, Corbin, Scherzer, added John Lester as an end of the rotation piece. They have Joe Ross there. You have Garcia playing this year, Trey Turner. They have Juan Soto. I read their lineup before. I got you in just a sec. So the Washington Nationals lineup for 2021. You got Brad Hand, they signed as a closer. They still have Will Harris. They signed Kyle Schwarber, Josh Bell. They still have Starlin Castro. Daniel Hudson's in the pen. This is going to be a sneaky team. Ryan Zimmerman's playing this year. He's doing fantastic in spring training. Spring training doesn't necessarily mean isn't going to translate to the actual season. But the Nationals, the NL East, I already stated it's going to be close. But I feel like the Nationals could just sneak in by like a game over the Braves.
Okay. I like that. That's a solid prediction there. I mean, it's tough. I was with you. I was back and forth with a few teams. The East, the Central, the West, the Central, like you said, it's like the East is overpowered. So you don't know who's going to take it. It could be any one of those teams. The Central is just like a bunch of average teams. And then the West, obviously, you have two great teams, but who's better than the overpowered Dodgers, right? So I'm going to start off with the West and work my way back to the East. I'm going to start with the West, say Los Angeles Dodgers. Simple as that. If you don't know why, well, just look it up. Look at their roster. Obviously, as you mentioned, Mookie Betts, they have Cody Bellinger. All these guys, even though they lost pieces, I think losing Jock Peterson may not seem like a bad loss, but in the playoffs, he's really good. I know his regular season stats aren't that great, which he did go to Chicago, and he's having a hell of a spring right now. And then they're pitching on top of that, getting Trevor Bauer, who is going to be phenomenal, who is phenomenal as it is with run support. It's inevitable that they're going to take that division. In the Central, I'm riding the Nolan Arenado train. I believe that the Cardinals are going to win the division. It's going to be close. I was torn. I was like, I wanted to be biased. Like Chicago. I feel like the Cubs can do it. They're the young guys, the heart of that World Series. They're still there for one last hurrah, but I just don't see it. I feel like they're gonna battle towards the end, and it's just gonna be the Cardinals. In the East, I'm sticking with Atlanta. Simply because their bats are great. We've had guys like Ozuna step it up. Marcel ended up batting like a 338 last year, hit like 18 home runs in 60 games. This is the guy that they are paying what they are paying for him for what he did in Miami and other places like St. Louis. He did fall off a couple of years ago. I don't want to say fell off. He had some down years, but he is back to help complement Ozzy and Ronald Acuna and some of those other great bats. Pitching is a weak point, but I feel like they will be good enough to edge out the Mets. With that being said, my wild card picks are Padres. I got to go with the Padres only because they have, I mean, they're the next best thing next to the Dodgers in my eyes, from pitching to bats. So I'm with you on that, but I am going to go with the New York Mets. I do not think that the Mets are going to lose out on the division by much. It could be a game, it could be 2 games, but it's interchangeable between the two. If the Mets end up taking the division, I feel like Atlanta is still the team in the East. Versus you're saying the Washington Nationals, which could very well be. I mean, that is the team that just won the World Series a couple seasons ago. So, but yeah, those are my picks there. So we're very similar, interchangeable, minus a wild card team. Obviously, you have the Nationals, and I have the Mets.
World Series predictions.
I'll start.
This is tough. Yeah,
I'll
go
start
ahead.
with this one. I'll start with this one. My predictions are, because they are ready now. They were not ready last year, and they did better than what I expected, even though it was a first-round exit. I'm going with the Chicago White Sox. Going with the White Sox. I did not predict them to make it last year, even though I'm a Sox fan, but I was happy with what I saw. They went out and got key pieces. They got Hendricks coming out of the pen to close out games. We have key pitchers coming back. Dylan Cease is only getting better. Kopech should be great. He looks to be throwing very well. And we have Lucas Giolito. I mean, with the run support that these pitchers are going to get, they're going to be allowed to be able to make mistakes. And that's what I love about this team. No matter what, 1 through 9, they're dangerous. Where one guy's bad, somewhere else in this lineup, they're going to make up for it. Where a pitcher might maybe not throw more than 60 pitches without getting pulled. It might happen. Who knows? There's probably going to be those games. I mean, it's a long season, but I feel like the bats will be able to bring them back if they're down, and it won't be by much. So I'm confident that the offense is complementing the pitching, the bats are complementing the pitching, and vice versa. So I'm going Chicago White Sox. In the NL. This is where it's tough. This is the tough one. I want to say Atlanta because I'm an Atlanta Braves fan next to Chicago White Sox. But I'm going to go outside of the box here. I'm going to say the Padres sneak in against the White Sox, and we have what probably nobody is predicting. We have the Southsiders versus the San Diego Padres in the World Series. And I don't know who's going to win that. Are we predicting the matchup as well as the winner?
Yeah. Yep.
All right. I'm going with the White Sox. White Sox are winning the World Series this year.
Okay. So we were similar in division matchups or playoff predictions. World Series, I am going to go with what I picked last year, Dodgers and the Yankees. I was really thinking about the Tampa Bay with how they're made and how they're like how well they can play in those types of games. But I think with this type of long season, you are gonna they are gonna see downfalls due to how long it is, and guys will be warm and ready. In that 2-month season, you either had to be ready or not. There was no room for you to fall behind last year. So that's an advantage of why Tampa Bay was able to kill it and why some teams struggled. So the Yankees, they're probably going to get a couple people at the trade deadline. And then I am going to go with the Dodgers because I just think they're the best team in baseball. And my winner is going to be the Dodgers. Like, it'd be a good matchup versus the Yankees, especially because the Dodgers have a lot of left-handed pitchers and the Yankees have a lot of right-handed hitters, vice versa. Yankees have a lot of right-handed pitchers, left-handed heavy lineup for the Dodgers. Dodgers are just stacked all the way through, and they're going to have guys stepping up for them. Like Gavin Lux, he wasn't even a factor last year. Not even a factor. He's having a great spring training. He's could be an all-star second baseman, and he could be batting eighth for this team. That's how good their lineup is. So
Yeah.
Dodgers over the Yankees in the World Series.
Who do you have winning that game? Oh, you already said the Dodgers. I'm sorry.
Yes.
You already said the
Yeah.
Dodgers. You did. See, I wanted to go Dodgers. I feel like that's the obvious, but there's this weird thing where it's like there's got to be a wild card team. There's got to be a wild card team. Whether if the Dodgers get eliminated first round exit, isn't it best of 3 first round?
Best of 5.
Oh, it is best. I'm sorry, best of 5, first of 3. So I mean, like maybe Atlanta or the Mets, who knows? Or maybe
Atlanta was one game away last year.
Atlanta played well. I feel like they're still I wouldn't say they improved, but I wouldn't say they got worse either. So they can still compete. So we'll see what happens when October baseball comes around. So with that being said, we have MVPs, we have Cy Young predictions. Let's start with the AL. Who is your MVP?
In the American League, it is so tough to bet against Mike Trout. It's every single year he has not finished lower than 5th. Like, it's just such an easy pick. Like, I'm going to go with Mike Trout, but I'm going to give a secondary pick.
Okay.
Man, seeing what spring trainings had, like last year with Shohei Ohtani as my MVP. Didn't pick him as a Cy Young, but picked him as the MVP. Kind of want to go that route again, but if it isn't Mike Trout, I would probably have to roll with a guy like Aaron Judge. He has to have one of these breakout seasons again. Well, he is broken out, but he has to have one of these amazing seasons again and win it. He was robbed last time. Has to get that MVP.
I like that. I have Mike Trout as well. Simply because, I mean, winning or losing, he goes out there and just plays extremely well, night in, night out, offensively, defensively. So yes, I am going Mike Trout. If we are doing an alternate pick, just looking at this list for favorites, it's tough. All right, I'll pick an alternate. I'll go my alternate, depending on how this team finishes. I'm gonna go Jose Ramirez simply because he puts up numbers every year. He can hit for power. He hits for can hit for average depending on the day he's having. He steals bases. He does everything you need to help win ball games. Now, the team around him isn't the greatest, but like you mentioned, they still have some good pitching. They still have Bieber, who I believe won Cy Young last year. They have good talent. It's now that Francisco Lindor is gone, it's all eyes are on him. So if they do manage to sneak into the playoffs or make it relatively close, and he puts up the numbers that he's capable or what he has been putting up, then I can see him winning. He's a guy who's been top 4 or top 5 MVP vote in like the last 4 years. So he is definitely somebody to look out for. There's so many picks in the AL. There's so many. You can go back to Jose Abreu, DJ LeMahieu, or LeMahieu, however you want to say his name. There's other guys like they're even saying Bo Bichette, which I mean, I don't know where he's going to finish an MVP, but I mean, he's another one out there. And who's Astros have Alex Bregman, who's still pretty good. But I'm gonna go with Mike Trout, and then Jose Ramirez would be my alternate pick there.
Okay.
What about your Cy Young, or you want to stick with MVP and go to the NL?
We'll go to NL MVPs. We'll do both awards.
Okay.
So in my National League MVP, I am going to go with probably the best hitter in baseball right now, Juan Soto. Because he was out for like a few weeks last year due to COVID protocols. I don't even know if he tested positive for a test, but due to COVID protocols, he had to miss a few weeks, and that dude tore up the league last year. Ever since he's entered the league, he has been amazing. And the dude's only like 21, 22 still. He's only going to get better. Full 162. He has a very solid lineup, and that's my guy. What could hurt him is defense, but he is a position player, so it shouldn't necessarily hurt him as much if he puts up like 40-something home runs, batting .320, and 115 RBIs. So Juan Soto. I was looking at a guy who won MVP a few years ago, Christian Yelich, but I'm going to go with Soto.
Okay. It's a good pick. Soto is definitely not talked about as much as he should be, considering in the short career that he's had so far in his young life, he has dominated the baseball. He's torn it up. He's torn it last year. Like you said, he missed a few weeks and ended up batting like a 360 and smacked like 13 dingers. Only 22. I like that. There's another young cat in the league who has been doing the same thing. Maybe not as no, I'd say he's pretty close. He's pretty close. Ronald Acuna, who is 23 years old, is my pick. And he's going to help Atlanta make the playoffs. The year before last, he hit over 40 home runs. He had over 100 RBIs. He almost stole 40 bases as well. Batted at 280. If he can stick around that 280, maybe bat even a little bit higher, I don't see how he doesn't win it. Unless Soto literally is that guy who takes the Nationals to the playoffs, like you're saying. So Acuna is definitely my pick for MVP. He is going to lift this team. He is going to lead them to the playoffs and win that division.
Very, very solid pick. Needs to improve his strikeout numbers a little bit and lead in probably more stats, and he'll be good. The Cy Young. I'll let you lead these.
Oh man. Cy Young, let's start with the American League. I am putting on my fan cap, but also because I feel like he should be able to secure a lot of W's with the offense that he has. We saw him throw a no-hitter last year. He's been one of the best guests we've had on the episode on an episode before. Lucas Giolito. He's my Cy Young pick out of the AL. The pressure's off of him. Granted, he goes out and tries to be the best, and he's pretty damn good at what he does. But with the addition, with the pitching, the help that he's getting out of the rotation, it's going to take a little bit of stress off of him to go in, night out as the only stud that they have. They have other great pitchers, Kopech, Dylan Cease is getting better. We mentioned some other guys. They have the bullpen and their bats. They're clicking just as good as they were last year. Spring's been great. I'm going with Lucas Giolito simply because his ERA is one of the best. He is able to rack up the strikeouts when he needs them, and should be able to get the wins. I don't see him really not getting at least 15, 16 wins this year, at least. With the NL, or you want to give your AL?
Yeah. So for my American League Cy Young winner, I think he's going to get even better this year with the new addition of a cider. He calls it a slutter. I'll keep it a little PG and call it a cider, mixed between a cutter and a slider. I'm gonna go with Tyler Glasnow. He's high in the odds, but with Tampa Bay, he's gonna be the ace this year, and his stuff is already electric. His spin rates are great. The new addition of the pitch looks great in the spring, and I just see him dominating. So
It's a good pick. It's a very good pick.
I think he'll lead. He could potentially lead in the strikeouts. ERA might be a little bit of a problem, but could lead in the strikeouts. And Tampa Bay, we know what they can do. They'll game manage probably when he pitches.
Yeah, and he was great last year. Obviously, helped them lead to the World Series. So no, I think that's a really good pick. He's definitely one of the favorites right now. NL NL Cy Young. I'll give my prediction with the NL Cy Young. I'm going to go with Jacob deGrom. He was one of the top vote getters last year. Obviously did not win it. Trevor Bauer ended up winning it with Cincinnati. He's been good the last, I don't know how many years now. He's well deserved of it. He's going to have great bats around him. This team is full of energy and momentum with Steve Cohen as the owner. He's getting the fans excited. It's just that he's going to ride on that momentum, and I think he pitches lights out as it is, but I think that this team is going to take it to the next level. They're going to be a playoff team, and all eyes are on that franchise right now. New owner, he's done a lot of great things. I'm going to go Jacob deGrom this year instead of going with maybe a Trevor Bauer or maybe a Yu Darvish or some of these other guys who got top votes last year.
I might be putting on my fan cap a little bit. I am going to go with Yu Darvish. Last year, he was electric. Nobody could hit him. He pitched so well in that shortened season. This year, doesn't seem to hurt him at all. In the spring, he goes to San Diego, a way better team. He was with a decent Cubs team. They won the division last year, but he goes to a lights out San Diego Padres team, and also he's now pitching in a pitcher's ballpark in San Diego. So some of his problems are allowing home runs. They're going to be limited a little bit now in San Diego. And he is going to get the results due to pitching against some of these poor NL West teams like the Rockies. You got the Giants. You have the Diamondbacks there. I just think his stuff is going to be electric again this year. And it doesn't matter what team he was on. He's at his full form.
It's a good pick. That's a good pick. Yu Darvish was on my list. He was on my list. He had, hell of a pitcher. He's at a new home, mate. But that was another thing too. Like when he first went to Chicago, he started off a little slow. So I was wondering.
He had the arm injuries there. He's healthy.
He did. And he's definitely got probably the most momentum for anybody coming into this season. So no, that's a very good pick. So we got our MVPs, we got our Cy Youngs, we got our divisional winners. We want to know what you guys think of our predictions, where we're wrong, because I'm sure we're wrong. We always are wrong, right? And so definitely let us know on Twitter, Instagram, what you guys think on that. But that's going to do it for the MLB segment. We are going to go over to the NFL, where we've had a trade. The 49ers trade up, and they now secured the 3rd overall pick in this year's NFL draft. Makes you wonder. So that trade it was actually ended up being a 3-team trade with the Eagles and Miami. So Miami ended up getting like most of the actual picks in that trade. What are your thoughts on that trade?
So it looks like San Francisco is probably going to draft a quarterback. That's a big QB controversy. Where they were drafting, I don't think they were drafting pretty high regardless. Mm-hmm. They were at number 12 before.
Yeah.
So they go from 12 to 3. In that slot, there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks drafted, and I don't see the need of that trade for a position player that they could have drafted. They could have waited and drafted him regardless. Yeah. So it looks like they are going to go with the quarterback, which is kind of surprising. Jimmy G didn't play too hot last year, even though they paid him all that money in San Fran. QB class, loaded though. So it looks like they're going to draft a quarterback. The Dolphins, they do have Tua. They aren't in need of a quarterback. They could trade back, which is what they did. And they got an extra first-round pick in previous season. They got a couple extra picks here and there. So very solid trade for the Dolphins' sake.
Yeah, it worked out. The Dolphins. So it ended up being that the Eagles are now getting the 12th pick. The Dolphins are getting the 6th pick.
While still keeping that extra first round they got.
Yeah, while still keeping that extra first round pick, which is going to be the 18th pick. So the Dolphins definitely, and the Dolphins have they've had a pretty damn good season. There are only maybe a couple of good players away out of the draft. Some young talent, but yeah, it's loaded with quarterbacks. I don't see how the 49ers don't draft a quarterback, even though they went out and said Jimmy G is our guy. I mean, I feel like that's a no-brainer. You have to say that. Why would you not say that? That's your guy. So there's going to be quarterback competition going into the season, preseason, summer camp. So the next move I'm curious to know is who else is going to trade up that needs a quarterback? Is Sam Darnold going to be bundled and traded away, maybe in a package? Will the Bears make moves? Who knows? Who knows? We don't know exactly. Not sure if it's going to happen, if they're going to stick it out with Andy Dalton, but we will know more as the NFL draft is slowly approaching. We have a few more weeks. It is on Thursday night, April 29th. I do not expect any other draft pick trades until draft day. That's generally how it works. The fact that the 49ers did it this early, they did it to know, okay, now this is what we want. Because that bundle of quarterbacks, you have Fields, you have Trevor Lawrence, who obviously is probably going to be number one. You have Zach Wilson. Trey Lance even. There's a few other quarterbacks in this draft where, even Mac Jones, who I think may end up falling to the Patriots, so which would be good for them. So it'd be interesting to see what ends up happening. Because obviously us being in the Chicago area, we know that the Bears are just like a quarterback away from being a playoff team. Maybe they do it with Dalton. I don't know, but that's just something that we like to stir the pot to see what ends up happening. But that's pretty much it with the NFL. There's not other news other than that huge trade. It's a big trade because now we don't know what's going to happen with Jimmy G. Maybe Jimmy G gets traded. Maybe they end up drafting one of these top quarterbacks going into the draft. And then it's like, what's the point of keeping Jimmy G?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Chicago, you want to give us some defense?
Please, no. Please, no.
His contract's huge. Huge
the
contract.
The Eagles moved back as well. They were they were projected to get either Kyle Pitts or Jamar Chase, one of the top wide receivers in the draft.
Yep.
I think they felt comfortable enough to where they could trade back and still get one of those top guys. So that was a good move for them. Yeah, Devontae Smith is another one. The Dolphins moving back up, I think they still want a higher pick. I don't see them drafting a quarterback. It's just, it doesn't really make too much sense. You do see teams nowadays draft quarterbacks in multiple years or pretty quickly. In a while ago, like mid 2000s and stuff, and even early 2010s, if teams drafted a quarterback, they kind of wrote it out. Teams are now like, you know what? Yeah, we did make a mistake. Why are we still using this guy? Let's just move on and own the mistake. And we saw that with the Cardinals one year where they drafted, what was his name? What was that quarterback? They drafted 7th, Josh Rosen.
Oh, Rosen, yeah.
And then they drafted Kyler Murray the next year. And
Josh Rosen was gone the next year, yeah.
So, like, Dolphins could still draft a quarterback. I just don't see the need. Maybe they need more positional guys. So you could see them draft like a Kyle Pitts at number 6 then in that spot.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're definitely just a few pieces away. I see why they decided to stay up in the draft. Eagles, who knows? The Eagles are one of those teams where you never know what you're going to get from them. Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. He's got the speed. He's got the arm. Maybe they get him a solid receiver because he has like absolutely no weapons. That dude has no weapons. So be interesting to see how the mock drafts change, if there's any other trades. But that's it for the NFL. Basketball, NBA. There were some moves. I know we talked about LaMarcus Aldridge potentially being bought out, was actually bought out, signs a deal with the Brooklyn Nets, joins up with pretty much every all-star. I don't know, what is it, 42 combined all-stars, something like that. They have Blake Griffin, who just joined. Obviously, we already know about James Harden, who got traded there, Kyrie, Kevin Durant. How much help does Kevin Durant need? How much?
Blake Griffin, he is playing way better than I thought he would. Like, that dude, he was the second leading scorer a couple nights ago for the Nets.
Yeah.
When it was just James Harden on the court. Ended up barely pulling out a victory, but he had like 17, 18 points with like 5 rebounds, 5 assists. He's made a big impact. LaMarcus Aldridge going to make a pretty big impact. It's just their defense, their lack of defense could hurt them in the playoffs, but this team offensively, there's just so many options.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can have a bad defense. We've been saying it for a while. A mediocre defense will get outshadowed by a great offense. You can have a mediocre defense if you are constantly scoring the basketball. It's just the way it is nowadays. It's just the way it is. James Harden, Durant, Kyrie alone, those 3 alone were predicting to go to the finals. You add Blake
Even
Griffin,
before Harden, I
before
predicted
Harden.
them.
Yeah, you did. You add in Blake Griffin, who I didn't lose any faith in him. He still had good games in Detroit. It was weird because you rarely saw him play, at least this season. But then like the last season or the season before, you see him putting up 20, 25 points. You see him throw down a dunk, which he dunked for the first time in a while. I
got 100,000 views on a Twitter clip because of that.
Nice. That's awesome. That's great. I mean, everybody was probably looking it up at that time. I mean, it's been a while. People were wondering, why would they want to washed up Blake Griffin? Because I'm here to tell you, that man's talented. He's not washed up. You are unmotivated when you play with any Detroit professional team.
And he was
lately.
hurt a little bit.
And he was hurt. And I mean, it was time for a new. I mean, you're talking about a guy who was literally in Hollywood. He was in LA for so long. And he went to Detroit, horrible franchise. They barely win basketball games.
Didn't choose to go there.
Didn't even choose to go there, exactly. No motivation whatsoever. Get him somewhere where there's competition around him, guys who are going to push each other to do better, knowing, hey, this is the year we have a win now team, and we're going to get that. LaMarcus Aldridge, too. Aldridge is getting older, so I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't have huge games, but he's a guy where you expect him to be at the right place at the right time to make game-saving plays because of his abilities. He's played with such great talent in Portland. He's had some great playoff runs with Portland. He's just a veteran. He's been there, done that, along with some of these other guys. So I think he's going to do great things over there. He's going to help out incredibly.
Yeah, I'm excited to see all of them play. We're still waiting on Kevin Durant to come back.
Kevin Durant's not even back yet. He'll be back by the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if he sits the rest of the season and even misses the first round of the playoffs, unless they need him, quote unquote. So we'll see. But then in the West, the other team that's one of the favorites, Los Angeles Lakers, who LeBron is out with a high ankle sprain. He definitely is hurt. He's definitely hurt because he's been playing all year. Many minutes for his age. High ankle sprain, he's out. Good news is they go out and they sign Andre Drummond, who gets bought out finally.
How much help does LeBron need?
How much help does LeBron James need? So he ends up signing, I think it's like a 1-year deal with the Lakers. It's just something we see. We see these big guys who end up just signing with the team. And the thing is, this is a guy who is capable of grabbing 20 rebounds in any game. I know a lot of people, they hate on him. They hate on him because he's the guy who can literally be the most bland 20 and 20 player in the league. because he makes no effect on the game. But I disagree. I feel like he's better than many centers in the league. He's better than anybody the Lakers have. I can tell you that. Way better. You have him, you have Anthony Davis at the 4, you get LeBron running the point or the 3 either way. They're guards, they do lack in guards, but I don't think they're gonna really struggle that much. I feel like those 3 guys, this team that they have right now is arguably as good as what they had last year, if not better, when they won the championship.
Mm-hmm.
So they do get Drummond. Again, he is not, I would say he's comparable to a Blake Griffin right now. He's got to make an impact. He's not the greatest player you can grab, but he's good. He's good. He's been good before and he'll be good now.
And the Lakers have lacked in a big man this year. Like, we know
Yeah.
AD can play the 5, but who else plays those minutes? They have Montrezl Harrell. He actually hasn't been playing too hot this year.
Yep.
You have Marcus Gasol, who looks like absolute garbage. They just had no big guys on that team. Now you pick up a guy who is averaging 17 and a half and 13 and a half boards on the year. Oof, that defense is going to be better. You're going to have a guy who's reliable for getting boards for you. Like, LA versus the Nets is looking like the matchup to be in the finals. And man, I honestly can't tell you who I would choose out of those two. I'd probably still pick the Nets due to their offensive explosion, but they're just two different powerhouses that play two different ways. We have the physicalness and the height and defense of the Lakers going up against just the lights out shooting and volume shooting that the Nets bring.
Yeah, I think that's what it's going to come down to is that rapid fire offense from the Nets who they're vulnerable on defense, which is going to allow the Lakers to put up the needed points. The Lakers have Anthony Davis, who is arguably defensive player of the year or has been arguably a defensive player of the year the last couple of years. LeBron's defense has gotten better as he's gotten older. Offensively, he hasn't really slowed down too much. He's still putting up numbers. I don't know who I would pick. I would have to think about it. With teams as is right now, 100% healthy, I almost feel like you have to go with the Nets, but it's too tough to say. But both teams, both favorites added more firepower this past week. And LeBron will be healthy in a couple. I mean, he won't be healthy for a couple more weeks, but he'll be good enough. He'll be good enough. They may not get the number 1 seed, may end up falling to Utah. Maybe Phoenix sneaks up there. Who knows? But Lakers are a playoff team regardless, with or without Anthony Davis and LeBron on the court. Currently, they will be back. Same thing with Kevin Durant in Brooklyn. These are guys who you rest them while you can and let them get hot leading into the playoffs. And it's gonna be a fun playoffs. I can tell you that, because the East is not gonna go out easy. But I don't want to say Brooklyn. Brooklyn has the East, but I don't want to say it's gonna be easy. Same thing with the Lakers in the West. So
there's still a lot of very solid teams. I get the two destinations right now have been Brooklyn and LA, and people are like, well, it's time to stop watching the NBA. Don't. There's no need to stop.
No way. Philly can end up being okay. I mean, it's hard to say Philly's going to be good ever because they just, for some reason, don't end up competing very much in the playoffs. They don't make that huge run. But, I mean, with a healthy Joel Embiid, if he comes back healthy, they could compete. Boston can compete. You have, I don't know. I guess that's really Milwaukee too. Outside of that, it could be, I mean, any other team can put up a series against Brooklyn, but I mean, those are going to be the main teams. I don't see Brooklyn really struggling in the first round.
Mm-hmm. Any other buyouts on the horizon? I think those are just like the big guys.
Those were the main ones. I'm sure there's some other small names that have happened that we didn't get, but those are the big names, and I'm excited. I'm ready for playoff basketball. The Bulls are, I believe, 0-2 since their big trade. Nikola
Which
Vucevic. Daniel Tice played finally, had some good defensive stops, nice block, nice little alley-oop. Pat Williams is playing okay. This is what I hate about the Bulls. It's their media, their social media account. I don't know who runs it. Oh, it's a great game for the Bulls. Reading it, because I didn't finish watching the game, thinking, okay, they came back. They ended up losing by like 12 points, like both games. It's like, how is that a great game? It's like, oh, because Vucevic did good. He shot efficiently. Yeah, I'm going to start to I need to see some victories. I believe that they can make an impact. They can be an 8th seed team and at least win a game or two in the playoffs just with that young team that they have.
The problem with that, though, yeah, they did go 0-2. They've struggled both games straight out the gate. One of the problems with the Bulls is they haven't practiced since they acquired everyone. So they have 4 or 5 brand new guys thrown right into the rotation.
Yeah.
Playing some big minutes, and they barely know their teammates. They're just like, all right, go play a basketball game. That's going to be tough to win games. Like, you could you could grab a talented team around the league, but putting them up against a random NBA team that's played together all season, most times the random NBA team is going to beat those guys.
Yeah, you could tell too in that first game against the Spurs, they had no answer to the Spurs ball movement, and then offensively they kept trying to force the ball into Nikola. They kept trying to force it in, and it was like turnover after turnover. And it's like, all right, guys, I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to give them a nice warm welcoming, let them steal the show. But yeah, I do agree, and that is the only time will tell. Practice. I mean, Billy Donovan, I'm sure, knows what he's doing with this team. So, obviously Charlotte is without LaMelo. They're still continuing to win games. I thought maybe they would take a back seat on that playoff run, but they're still a really good team. Some other teams there, Atlanta, New York. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the NBA.
Laurie hit the bench for the last game, which hoping to see a little bit more. Laurie, I hoped that he would be off the Bulls team come trade deadline. He is not, and it looks like I don't think the Bulls are going to re-sign him. But the Bulls and Billy Donovan know him and Vucevic can't really play on the court at the same time. They can't at least start with their defense. So Markkanen's seen the bench right now. They did throw out Thaddeus Young. He's not the best, but he's he's a veteran. He's a team player. He knows his role. Yeah, that could help him out a little bit. Tomorrow, if you guys are interested, or tonight when you are listening to this episode, the Bulls are going to be playing the Phoenix Suns, who they're going to be playing back-to-back games. The Bulls have had a game or a day off. So it could be a good matchup.
It'd be a good game. It'd be a very good matchup. Yeah, Phoenix has been hot. So, anyways, guys, that is going to wrap up this week's episode. Make sure you guys hit that download button. Check us out on social media, SR Only Pod, Instagram, Twitter. I'm iGoose, 4 O's. We have Healy, the Healy 6. And then we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, opening day, talking about baseball. Let's go.
Let's go.